Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you
John Backus.
You did it. Thank you, Steve. Hi, everyone. My name is John Backus. I'm glad to be here with you tonight. I really enjoy not only sharing some of the history and the intellectual challenges that face young Christians finding their way through life and also people of faith, but I'm also here to encourage you. College for me was a time where my life went in 18 different directions, kind of depending on what week it was. And I was shaped by some people who invested themselves in me, encouraged me, gave me good life advice, and made me realize I wasn't alone in a very formative time of my life. So I'm glad to be here with you today. I treasure this time. Before I start talking about our topic, scammed, I want to introduce myself so you know a little bit about me. I have spoken at a gathering in the past, and I'm looking forward to doing it again in the future. The little icons underneath my name and age are a good way of summarizing up some of my personal interests. My name is John Backus, and I'm 37 years old. Like many guys born in the time frame that I was, I enjoy games and guitar. I love playing music. I get to do it with my family in my home, folk music and electric guitar. And I also do it volunteering, leading worship in my church. I like playing games, getting out of the real world into alternative reality sometimes. That's a little bit more fun than the reality that we have to face when we head off to classes or off to work. I'm playing Mass Effect and Fallout 3. The next little icon there is a picture of a woman with flowing hair. I am married. I've been married for 13 years to a woman named Rachel, a Christian girl, and the Lord blessed us with 3 kids. All of them are girls. So I live in a world of pink. I would say that the head of a female kind of summarizes my home life. I was born into a family with all sorts of brothers, so we played football outside, shot BB guns and all that kind of stuff, and I'm still getting used to what it's like to live in a world of pink. And then finally, the little cross icon on the side there. In my professional life, I am a teaching pastor and a worship leader. I serve 2 kind of different church groups in suburban Milwaukee in the city of Muskego. I do a lot of teaching. I'm trained as a theologian, and my love and passion for music has allowed me to be involved in a worship leading role. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm excited to talk to you today about a scam, but I have to start with an embarrassing part. To be honest, I consider myself decently educated. I'm going to even put my glasses on so I look smarter. I have a master's of divinity. I graduated with honors. I like thinking deep thoughts. I didn't have trouble in school. I like logic problems, that kind of stuff. So I consider myself somebody who could wear a hat with decent credibility. And yet, at other times, if you'd watch me in my life, this would be the hat that you'd see me wearing, a dunce hat. I'm going to tell you just about a little scam that took me and robbed me of $20. And we'll see if you would have done the same thing I did. It was a scam that happened in Target a couple Christmas seasons ago. His dad and his cute little kid came up to me, and he was going to buy his kid a PlayStation game. And the dad said, I've got this problem. I have this gift certificate to Target, and I told my kid we were going to buy this PlayStation game, but they don't have the right one. So I will give you this $50 Target gift card, and you can buy whatever you want here if you'll give me just $20 bills so I can take my kid to a different store and buy the game at that store. All right, it's Christmas time, the season of charity. So what did I do? I gave him $20. He gave me his Target gift card, and we parted ways amicably. Guess what happened when I got up to the register to check the balance on the gift card? Of course not. Duh. 0. So that's my dunce moment. Now the reason I bring this up isn't to embarrass myself, but to show that even when you've got a master's degree, you graduate with honors, basically you have a decent head on your shoulders, you can still do some pretty dumb things. Because there's more to who we are than just the knowledge we've got in our head. There's things that we want to do. We're led by desires, either to help out or to get someone off our back. Maybe we want to be charitable. Maybe we don't want to look like a Grinch. And so I helped out that guy, even though if I would have thought about the circumstances, I could have known that I could verify the value of a $20 bill, but I couldn't verify the value of that Target gift card right in that moment. Okay, so I wonder if you've been duped. I mean, my little brother, he's also educated, but just recently he clicked on the wrong link on email and got himself a good old computer virus. Have you been duped? You've been ripped off by somebody or something, or maybe someone? Have you had a bad relationship where you invested yourself into them and they turned out to be a creep, and you don't know how the person pulled the wool over your eyes, but it just did not go well? We all, even though we're highly intelligent, can be susceptible to being duped if we're not on our toes about it. And today I want to talk to you about a scam that has its roots deep in human history. You know, we live in an age of conspiracy theories. There's all sorts of movies that challenge what's real and what's not, whether it's Inception or The Matrix. Any of these big budget films are trying to get at what does the world actually live in. We got to be smart about this topic because the way we view the world affects the way we act in the world. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to start studying ancient literature like this. This is a piece of history, one of the first ones in the Christian community that identified a scam that was messing not only with individuals of that time, but later would grow into a worldwide scam that still is having repercussions in people's lives today. This is called the Badmon Papyrus. It's called Papyrus 72. It's found in a library right now in Rome. Up at the top, we've got the author. In Greek, it sounds like this: Petros Apostolos B. That's Peter, the apostle, B, his second letter. This piece of papyrus, it's made of grass smashed together, and the liquid and glue kind of keeps it together. It's 1,700 years old. And if you go dig into history and start reading ancient literature like this, you realize that scams are not something that just exists in 2013 at Target, but scams have existed deep inside humanity, and people have been fighting against them for some time. I'd like you to follow me as we dig deep into the roots of this scam and then kind of see how the warning that this author from 1,700 years ago gave to the people of his day helps us think smart about the world we're in and what our place in the world is. Scammed. When the Apostle Peter, an associate of Jesus, wrote about this scam, this philosophical scam that was taking the world by storm, it had something to do with what we call a worldview. A worldview is your explanation of why the world is the way it is. You know, we live in a world, we can measure it, we can see it, but how did it get here? Why am I alive? Why am I breathing? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? A worldview answers the questions: where did I come from? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? So a worldview is something that every one of you has. You have some general idea of what you exist for, some reason for being alive. The scam that the Apostle Peter was writing about is a scam that messed with people's worldview. And it wasn't just people in a church. He was writing about a worldview that robbed the identity of the entire planet. I mean, erasing the memory of a server, erasing the contents of a server, or busting down a website with a DDoS attack. Those are things that kind of wrestle with our technology life. But Peter's talking about a scam that messes with the identity of the world. It takes humanity and erases the things that we know about ourselves so that we forget where we came from, why we're here, and where we're headed. Now, the scam seems like a conspiracy theory, but you can see evidence today of how that same scam still messes with people's security, their self-identity, and their purpose for living. Peter identified a worldview scam. Now, when Peter wrote in 2 Peter, he wrote quotations, and he wanted people to think smart, to have a wise way of viewing the world. One of my pet peeves is when people of faith are equated with people of no brain. That if you're a spiritual person, you have to be stupid. And if you're a smart person, you can't be spiritual. Well, I believe that God gave us wisdom, that we've got good brains in our heads, and that we are to use that wisdom as we interact with the world around us. Now, Peter felt that same way. Here's a quotation from that ancient papyrus. Peter said, "My dear friends, I've written both of my letters to you as reminders to stimulate you to wholesome thinking." Wholesome thinking is a pattern of thought, a wisdom package that takes you from where you are and leads you into a good future. You guys are all invested in that if you're a college student right now, right? You're packing stuff into your mind, you're gaining skill sets so that you can move yourself from where you are right now into a better future, as an engineer, as a nurse, in whatever area of career you're heading toward. So Peter wrote because he wanted people of faith to be intelligent. to be smart about what they were doing with their lives and where they were headed. Okay? But he understood that not everybody would see eye to eye, that there was going to be different ideas for what a good path through life was. And we're not talking about career choices. You know, should I spend my time practicing circuits or doing physics or studying molecular biology? He's talking about something bigger, not just the identity of one human being inside of the world, but he's talking about the entire world, the identity of humanity. He says this, above all, you must understand that in the last days, that's Peter essentially saying in the future, in what waits ahead for us, he wrote 1,700 years ago, scoffers will come, scoffing and following their evil desires. So people motivated by a dedication to self. Basically, selfish people who don't care about others and just want to use any means they can get to promote themselves. Those people were told deliberately forget that long ago by God's word the heavens came into being and the earth was formed out of water and by water. All right, they were drawing a line in the sand. They were helping to shape what a worldview is. Peter's particular worldview is saying, here's what you need to know about the identity of humanity. The heavens, that's everything above the horizon, and the earth, that's everything below the horizon, was called into existence by command. That's Peter's worldview. Now, I'm not sure what your worldview is here with us tonight. If I'd ask you, hey, how did everything that is come to exist? I don't know if you'd agree with Peter or not, but that's where he's writing from. By God's word, the heavens came into being and the earth was formed out of water, by water. So here's the worldview that Peter is trying to get you to hang on to and not be scammed. Peter says that our world exists here because it was intended to. It was given purpose and design for a reason. We live in a world of order. We live in a world where natural systems can be observed. They can be intelligently decoded. They can be predicted. We can come up with natural laws because we don't live in a system of chaos where nothing is predictable. You live in a world where there are patterns, and those patterns have the touch of intelligence behind them. That's the basis for every one of the science fields, the mathematics fields, and music fields. That there's patterns that follow orders and follow rules. There's beautiful things in the world that we say are part of a creative process. Now, if you listen to Peter and say, hey, that's going to be my worldview, I'm part of a global human population that was created by a transcendent being, then it means we are not rank one in terms of beings that exist. If there's something that existed before us, built us, designed us, then we are at least rank 2, maybe rank 3 or further on down the line, right? To say that the world was designed intentionally and was built in a systematically organized way is to acknowledge that there's a creator. Now, not everyone has that worldview. A scam has taken place where people have forgotten, Peter would claim, where humanity originated. If the world was created by a designer, that means we are accountable to a designer. If the world was created by a nobody, that would mean we are accountable to nobody. So here becomes the clash of worldviews. That's the difference between people of conscience and what we call humanism. Now, I realize we're on the MSOE campus. Not all of you are from an engineering background, but we're starting to touch into philosophy, right? Philosophy is one of those soft sciences. It's where the deep thinkers go who don't know how to do math, but they know how to talk in circles. Yeah. You know, when you really get down to it, engineer is solving a very concrete problem right in front of you because you want to solve a problem and make a better future. And philosophy, or in my case, theology, is doing the same thing, but on a bigger scale with people, not things. I look at you guys and I want what's good for you. I want you to find your way through your human existence safely, and I want your future to be one that's blessed. I want you to be happy and safe and secure. So when you jump into realms of theology and philosophy, these are asking not small mechanical questions, but they're asking questions on a bigger scale. How do we take care of people? How can people be safe? How can we know that people are going to work down in the future, not just fall apart? So I'm going to ask you, are you familiar with the concept of a conscience? I probably don't have to ask you, but have you ever felt like, the phenomena that you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, and you just get a little bit freaked out when you're doing something bad and there's nobody there, but you can kind of imagine they're behind you. You feel like they're off your back shoulder. Like your eyes are on something they shouldn't be on, and even though you're all by yourself, you still feel like you got to hide it. You're telling a little white lie to avoid trouble with your significant other, and you just hope that the person doesn't find out. I mean, we know what a conscience is. This is a universal part of humanity. Peter would say the conscience exists because we know somebody bigger than us we're accountable to him. Humanism, on the other hand, is the worldview that says there's nobody bigger than me. The capacity of the human mind is the greatest thinking machine there can ever be. Nothing can exceed the power or the capability of the human brain processor. So man is the measure of all things. There will never be and there never has been a higher life form than humanity. So humanity is accountable to no one but themselves. And so a humanist will say, whatever my brain comes up with, I'm going to be good with that. And whatever it is that moves me forward or moves humanity forward, me as a part of humanity, that's going to be the driving force. So a person of conscience will start asking, why am I here? Well, I came from the mind of an intelligent creator. I was designed for a specific purpose, and the path to happiness is going to be living my life according to that pattern. A scam, if Peter's right, lies to people and says, you didn't come from anywhere. You're not accountable to anyone. All you do is do what you feel like doing. Not only that, Peter said, people will say, in critique of the Christian view that the world is headed towards something, we often call it Judgment Day, the start of a new, the end of the old. People will say, where's this coming Jesus talked about when he taught on earth? Ever since our ancestors died, everything goes on as it has since the beginning of creation. So Peter was addressing a false worldview that was scamming people. They had a mistaken understanding of where they came from, their history in life. It's an approach that looks at the world and says, the way I see things now is exactly the way things have been in the past, and extrapolating what you know about history from what you see today. It's called uniformitarianism. Basically, everything always follows consistent patterns. So if you study the world today, you can figure out everything you need to know about history just from what you see today. Now, Peter says that's a scam. It's a scam to think if you can figure out anything you need to know about human origins just by modern study of what you see around you. Peter says this is why. People deliberately forget that long ago by God's word, the heaven and earth came into being, and the earth was formed out of water by water. By these waters also the world of that time was deluged and destroyed. So here's Peter's worldview. He says, the world that we live in is not the same in shape and form as the world was when it was called into existence. Something broke big time. The world was deluged. If you know a little bit about Christianity, this is a reference to a worldwide Noahic flood. That's what Peter wrote about 1,700 years ago. He said, this is part of human history. And to be honest, I think it's pretty cool that 1,700 years later, that history, even though some people view it as legend or myth, is still commonly known in current society. The thing here, though, is that Peter's worldview says we live in a planet, a home that has experienced abrupt changes, including great catastrophe. Now, this is going to affect how we look back at our history. So much of what we do in life is dependent on our age, right? Nate's back there in the plaid shirt. Hi, Nate. One of the first questions I asked Nate was, how old are you? I was trying to figure out how we relate to each other, right? Some of us, if we're older, we behave different, we fit into different social settings, maybe we're in different grades. We rank ourselves based on our age and how much life history or life experience we've had. That's part of our worldview. Where did we come from? Now, Peter was writing to talk about the worldview of the history of the world. It's part of our worldview. Where did we come from? How did we get to where we are right now? And that included some very abrupt changes. Now, if the world did go through some very abrupt changes, it means that the world we see today is not automatically going to tell us everything we need to know about the world of the past. In fact, the chronology of how old our world is going to be pretty messed up. Imagine if you're filling a sink with water and you turn on the tap just a little bit, plug the drain, and let it drip, 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 drip. Then you walk out of the room. You could assume that that sink will fill up very slow. On the other hand, maybe your wife comes in, or your girlfriend, or whoever it might be, and turns the faucet on full, fills up the whole sink, turns off the tap, and then walks out of the room. When you walk back into the room, you'll be surprised at how full the sink is, because your expectations of the rate of fill won't match what actually happened. The slow process you accepted was interrupted by abrupt change when the tap was turned on fully. That's kind of the argument that Peter's talking about. He says, people have said, oh, the world's going on in the same way it always has been. The processes we see at work in nature around us, that's the way things have always been. Peter says, no. We forget this part of our history. There's been a worldwide identity theft, a scam that makes people convinced, hey, some of these things didn't happen. So this is the worldview conflict between an abrupt changing earth history and one in which all the forces of nature have remained consistently uniform. So here's a little exercise. This is looking out my living room. If you've never been to my house, I don't think you have. Maybe, Brian, have you been to my house? I sit on my couch, have my morning coffee, and this is the scene out of my bay window. Now you see that red barn in the middle? That's right on Janesville Road. And I can see cars going past that follow this highway line right there. Now I can use this to time the rate of travel of vehicles, right? You got a starting point, a stopping point. All you need is Lightning McQueen and a stopwatch, and you can figure out the rate of travel of this car. Boom! That's how long it took to travel so many feet. Meters per second, miles per hour, you choose the units, but it's not hard to figure that out. So based on you watching Lightning McQueen travel this specific length, can you answer this question? How long will it take Lightning to travel from LA to New York? Can you figure it out? Who's our math whiz? Avery, you introduced me. Can you figure out the answer based on what you got?
If you make the correct assumptions.
Okay, if you make the correct assumptions. What is an assumption you'd have to make that would prove your calculation valid?
That you didn't take any stops, and then you would have to come up with an average speed limit and how much you'd go over that speed limit.
Yeah. So if the little bit of motion that you saw in between the brick building and the pine trees was uniform throughout the entire length of the country, there was no increase or decrease in speed, there were no obstacles, there were no breakdowns, then you could use that small measurement of what's right in front of you sitting on the couch at my house to figure out the journey time. We know that roads don't work that way. Stoplights mess with you, car problems mess with you, restroom breaks and gas station breaks and traffic jams and all this winter weather, they mess with the way the journey actually happens. And so if you would say, I know exactly how long it would take Lightning McQueen to make this long trip, you'd be making assumptions of uniformity. And Peter says that's not a valid viewpoint because part of Earth's history have been abrupt changes. This is one of the arguments that helps Bible readers explain why our universe looks older than the biblical authors claim it is. So on day 6, from the biblical perspective of when the earth was made, the earth was already populated with stars, full-grown trees bearing fruit, and people who looked like adults. So if Abraham was a mature man able to reproduce with his wife shortly after being created, he would have looked some maybe 30, 18, 40 years old on the first day of creation, right? And if you know the rate of light travel from a star to the earth, people look out and figure out the speed of light, and then they figure out how long it takes the light to reach our telescopes and our eyes from far off. And we just say, if I know how fast light travels, and I know how far away the stars are, from the moment that star got turned on, there's X many light years have passed since the beginning of our universe. Peter would claim that's forgetting something. Peter would claim that the true history of the world was one in which an abrupt beginning happened. And so the stars aren't actually a great tool to explain how old the world is. Instead, it kind of fits what the Bible authors say. They just make a really good clock for what day it is now. all of our calendaring systems, they're built on lunar or astral or solar movements, and that keeps the world ticking. The tides, everything is linked into that clock. But that clock shows us how time passes now, but not how much time our world has had. Okay, so there's a tension between a world that consistently goes on and a world that has sudden and abrupt changes. Noah's flood, if that's a part of history, which is in virtually every culture, the legend of every culture on earth and every continent has a flood story. If that's real, a worldwide flood where everything was covered by water, that would seriously mess up everything that a uniformitarian would say can be used to consistently date the earth, including fossils, including land formations, the amount of change that would be catastrophic in an amazingly short period of time. Well, you just can't figure out the age of the earth based on the assumption of uniformitarianism if these big abrupt changes did happen. So Peter is saying, just be aware of this. If you're building your understanding of where we are and where we came from without these facts, you're going to come to a very different conclusion about our identity. All right, the final thing that Peter talks about is being on a planet that needs rebirth. Basically, do any of you drive a junker? My worst car was a $200 1976 Chevy Impala. I know my wife loved me because she dated me even though I showed up in that piece of crap in front of her mom's house. It was just butt ugly. It didn't have an exhaust. It ran on 5 of the 6 cylinders. It was a terrible car. And I just knew its end was imminent because things were breaking down, and over time more things broke down, and eventually it broke down. Okay? I drove in a vehicle that was experiencing entropy, decay, breaking. Peter writes to tell us that we live in a world of entropy, a world where things are broken and they are breaking and they will continue to break. And so the worldview, the wise worldview that Peter wants you to know is if you're setting your expectations for your life to be in a place where things are always getting better, where your feelings are always getting better, where your happiness is always getting better, you're setting yourself up for a fall. There's going to be hard times for this world and the people in it. Peter said it this way. He said, God is patient with you, not wanting anyone to perish, but everyone to come to repentance. Any of you upgrade your CPU in your gaming rig? Who's our computer geek? All right, you take out your computer processor, it's too slow, you stick a new one in, and suddenly the system functions better. Peter's talking about doing that in a spiritual way, an invisible way, about reaching into somebody and tweaking their thinking patterns, changing the things they love, giving them a new mind. Repentance is having a new mind or a change in thought pattern. And Peter wants people to have a change in thought pattern when they live their lives. Not only is it a change in people that needs to take place, but he also talks about a change to the world that we live in. He says, since everything will be destroyed in the future, the way the flood messed with the world's history in the past, what kind of people ought you to be? You ought to live holy and godly lives as you look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. Do you see out of this worldview that there's not only an originator of life, but there's a termination of life? There's accountability with a creator. That's part of our system of morality and ethics. If this is true, if there's an end, then there's a motivation and a reason for living in a particular pattern that's not about who you are, or what you want to do, or what feels good for you. It's about your relationship with the person who built you and how you can serve in a way that matches his design. That day will bring about the destructions of the heaven by fire. Elements will melt in the heat. You know what happens when you pull chemical bonds apart? Exothermic reactions, right? The elements will melt in the heat, but in keeping with his promise, we're looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth. Again, heaven is everything above the horizon, earth is everything below. A new home that's not broken. The earth needs a rebirth, and so do we. And so here's a conflict between Peter's worldview, a worldview that says there's something broken in humanity that needs to be repaired, and there's something in our world that is causing our world to head to an end, versus Darwinian theory, which says the way you're wired is exactly what you need to do to survive. You follow your gut instinct, you follow your gut impulse. You don't need to change who you are. You need to affirm who you are and act in ways that affirm your personal self-identity. Wherever your instinct takes you, that's what you follow. So if you like doing things that have fun but damage other people, well then have fun and damage other people, because that's what you were wired to behave the way you feel. The earth needs a rebirth, and so do we. So here's just a graph of the different worldviews when it comes to where the world came from and where we're going. The blue one talks about Peter's worldview. He says, there was a time in this world when everything worked the way it was supposed to. Just like there's a time when my 1976 Chevy Impala must have looked good. Didn't anymore when I got to it. Things kept breaking down. So I love the planet God gave us to live on. But I believe that we're going to have more and more accumulated natural problems over time. Natural systems, animal systems, extinctions are just going to keep on coming. The world is going to become a more and more hostile place because it is breaking down and will continue to experience more entropy. What that means is that even though I love the environment, I'm not a strong, dedicated environmentalist whose life is dependent on protecting my mother, the nature of the planet. The reason I'm not that is because I believe the hope for this world is not to save it, but to remake it, to have a rebirth for it. Here's the other worldview you can have, the worldview that the world started off as a mess, just a big pile of elements, and it's slowly self-assembling. Now, there's not a lot of things I know that self-assemble other than living beings. You know, if you have life, you can reproduce and cells divide, mitosis takes place. And human beings can start very simple and then divide from a very small package in mom's tummy into an amazing thing like you are today, right? Where there's life, there's complex growth and complexity. But in the world outside of where life is, this never happens. Life never comes from non-life. So if you're living according to a worldview that says my world is just going to continue to self-improve, that humanity is going to continue to self-improve, I don't know if it matches what we see about humanity today. The lifespan of human beings has been consistently decreasing as far back as we can look in recorded history, with the exception of interruptions made by medical technology. So human beings aren't healthier. We can just address health problems with more tools than we had in the past. Either the world is improving and headed for a better future, or the world is tanking and is heading for a bad future. Peter wants to encourage us that this world's going to wear out just like my old Impala did, and you need to be ready for when a new one is going to be made. Now, when I was back in Target, how do you suppose I, with my Master's of Divinity, my honor grades, how did I get scammed by some jerk? What do you think made me do that? Is it a lack of intelligence? No, I did good on my SATs. You know, why did I do it? I didn't think, right? Maybe watching out for scammers in my local Target wasn't on my radar. Or maybe I was worried about feeling like a jerk. What kind of guy wouldn't help a little kid? Or maybe I wanted to be charitable at Christmas time. Do you see how my brain kind of got set aside? I didn't think through what I was going to do with my money. I just did what I felt I should do in the moment, which led me to a stupid decision. You know, we talk a lot about intelligence in the sciences, but there's more to people than just intelligence. Worldviews especially are endorsed not so much by the smart part of our brain, but a lot of times by the way we want the world to work, what we feel should be the case. This book by Chip Heath and Dan Heath talked about people being riders on elephants. And the rider there, the stick guy, has reins, and he can kind of yank the head of the elephant around, but he can't do it for very long because the elephant is stronger and his arms get tired. So most of the time, you know who's really driving this vehicle? The elephant. In a human being, the elephant is the things we want, the way we feel about life, what we desire. And our brain is a poor little guy hanging on top. So you can know things about what's good and bad for you, but unless you exercise rigid self-control, you're going to do some amazingly stupid things. I mean, don't we have habits that tank our health? I know last night as I was prepping this discussion that Cheetos are not good for my physique. And yet as I'm sitting there, I'm eating Cheetos, and then another bag, and then another bag. So I'm cramming these things down, not because I know I need them or they're going to give me nutrition, but it's because I want that feeling of cheese and salt in me. In the same way, people forget what they don't want to remember. Peter talked about there's this intellectual knowledge that people can have, but it gets shoved aside. So why is it that people find it more acceptable to have a Darwinian or a uniformitarian or a humanistic point of view instead of one that's referred to by many, many people from history, the Christian worldview? Well, it's because people forget what they don't want to remember. Here's some examples. Lawless people don't like being told about laws. It is our instinct to evade, deny, or misdirect guilt. Kids know this right away. Framing their little brothers or sisters, hiding something they did wrong. Now, when I was in college, I was coming through my campus and I blew a stop sign, and just as I blew a stop sign, I saw a cop on the corner. Well, his car wasn't started and mine was still going, so I made it to the parking lot where I was parked, and I jumped out and I ran away from the car and around the building, and I peeked around the corner. So now the cop is there and he saw me run through a stop sign, but he couldn't give me a ticket because I wasn't in my car. Now, I've never in my life run from law enforcement, and to this day I don't know what caused me to think I could run away from the cop who followed me, but the only thing I can guess is that is instinct, is fear. We feel something, we've done something wrong, and we want to hide it, evade it, misdirect it, or deny it. That's just the way we work. Another challenge is that intelligent people do not like being called ignorant. Nobody likes being called stupid. To be next to someone who's clearly smarter than you are, sometimes it's hard to be friends with people, right? If there's somebody who's really successful and good looking and you're moderately successful and moderately good looking and you hang out with them all the time, they get the attention, they get the success, they get the grades. After a while, it's tiring, right? It's hard for us to live in a world where somebody's clearly our superior. Because we believe our sinful nature is self-centered and doesn't want to celebrate the joys of others. But intelligent people don't like to be called ignorant. And that's exactly what Peter's worldview does. It says, people, you've forgotten how to live. You need God's wisdom for your life, not your own. And that's why we hate spell checkers. Oh, that stupid red line on my computer. Most people, yeah, I made a spelling mistake there. Don't bring it up, though. Most people resent being told they made a mistake. Another reality is mortal people don't like talking about death. Can you figure out where this flower arrangement belongs? Guess where this flower arrangement is sitting? On top of a coffin. Now, the reality of a funeral is we've got a human body that's rotting. So if you really want to be honest and authentic, when you go to a funeral, we should all come together, put a corpse on a table in front of us and say, friends, we've got a problem. I'm sad because the body of my mom is decaying in front of my eyes. That is the honest way to go about life. What do? We paint it. And we put plastic and chemicals in it so it holds its shape and doesn't droop too much. And then we put it in a really cozy mattress and with poofy lined walls. Anybody would like to take a nap in a coffin. And we put flowers on the top because we like to pretend that something great is going on here. We'd rather not think about the reality of death. The fact that lawless people don't like being held accountable to laws, and intelligent people don't like being told there's someone smarter than they are and wiser about their life, and the fact that we don't like to think about the reality of death and the cause of death show that a lot of people form their worldview not by their intelligence but by what they want to be true about their own life, independence, or what's happening to them. So Peter would say, choose your position wisely. I've done a lot of studying on one of the greatest men in history who's changed the world and influenced it. Bar none, he's superior as a teacher, a philosopher, a humanitarian, and he did some amazing stuff recorded by history on the side. That's the person of Jesus. I think that the Christian worldview is one of the most reasonable, logical, and comprehensive in explaining the world that we live in today. Why is the world sometimes beautiful but sometimes ugly? Why do human beings have so much potential then die? Why do people who love each other hate each other and relationships break? All these questions about death, the human mind, where we're going, emotions and intellect fit into the Christian worldview. There's also a satisfaction that comes. Peter says, identify holes in your holiness and live a life worthy of the calling you've received. You will be more satisfied with yourself in life if you live according to the wisdom of God. The reality is, sometimes it feels good to be good. That's not an accident. And then finally, the Christian worldview is one of optimism. We live in a world where we know the future is going to hold something great. Look forward to a world where things are going to get better. If you want to do more studying on this topic, or if you have a love for philosophy, if you have an intellectual mind and you're not content just to face the problems of life that are right in front of you, but really want to dig deep into the nature of humanity, where you came from, why we're here, and where we're going, you might want to grab one of these two books. On the left, a book called What in the World is Going On? I think you'd find it fascinating as you interact with your peers on colleges, as you run into people from different backgrounds, atheists, humanists, deists, people from different religious backgrounds, pagans, all sorts of postmodernists, modernists, Satanists. All of those are explained, the roots, origins, their way of explaining the world in this book, What in the World is Going On? And the final one is by John Ortberg, a book called Who is This Man? It talks about the amazing things that happen with Christ in the center of a worldview, basically how Jesus transforms the world in a powerful, positive way that no one else has done or can do in the lives of people. All right, as a Christian pastor, you know my perspective and my worldview. I think it's so cool for me to be able to say, I have some pretty good reasons for knowing where I came from, what I'm doing here, and where I'm going. There's hard questions about the world we live in that I can't answer. But there's even more that I can, because I feel like I know where I fit. I have a good worldview. If you have that too, I celebrate it. If you're still feeling kind of lost and you're looking to dig into it more, I'd love to talk with you or read some of these books that I've put on the screen. I just want you to know that you're not lost, you're not alone, you're not an accident, you're a creature, you're a treasure to the Lord. You've got an amazing, good future for you as you go through this journey called life. Don't be scammed, be a good, wholesome, intelligent thinker. Thank you.